Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're going to talk about Samsung Galaxy M31s. So let's dive right into it. Well, first, the primary reason is my phone M30 is starting to show its age. It's almost 2 years, and that's the cycle basically when I replace my old phone. So now generally this will be handed down into my family rather than being like sold or scrapped. So fundamentally I have a requirement for a new phone. So this is one thing that I have noticed often and often again, is that people try to make their decision based on other people's recommendation. That's not how it's supposed to be. How it's supposed to be is you have to figure out your needs, because it will be different for every individual. Let's think of it this way. Let's say there is a shoemaker who makes awesome shoes and he sells you a 8 number shoe, but your foot required a 7 number shoe. Again, is the shoe bad or your decision making is bad? That's the whole point. You have to figure out your need first. For example, this is just a rough idea, like exercise, quote unquote, how I did it. First thing I need is a good display. Now, it may not sound that big of a deal. Is like that's the primary requirement. You have to understand that's the input and output and everything else of a mobile phone. If that is not awesome, there is no point in it. And there has not been a quote unquote big change. In early days there were a lot of big changes, like oh, this LCD is tangibly better than the other one, and this time LCD is like one glass sandwich rather than like having big layers. So if you put your finger, you could notice your finger's shadow on the LCD itself. So all those things have reached a quote unquote maturity point where it's like almost same. However, still in this day a very big difference happens, specifically in low budget range, is LCD versus OLED. That's the biggest difference that happened in recent time. Like if today you have to choose between OLED versus LCD, choosing LCD is not acceptable for me. Now for many other people that may be okay. They may be like, hey, 120 hertz LCD versus 60 hertz OLED, I need more refresher because I'm a gamer or whatever. Up to you. That's why need is important. You have to know what you need. Now in my case, a man needs contrast and a man needs OLED. So that flat out removes a lot of mobile phones on low budget end. Another aspect, this I learned through the hard way and going through multiple smartphones, that bigger battery is compulsory. Now it does not matter how much efficiency, does not matter how much AI optimization, battery optimization, all that jazz does not matter at all unless you have a big battery. And there is another benefit of big batteries, specifically batteries that are larger than 5000 milliamp hour. And I'm talking about mobile phones that utilize single cell design. If they have two smaller ones, it's not that beneficial. But if you have one large cell, for example, one 6000 milliamp hour cell or one 5000 milliamp hour cell, the benefit is that after 2 years, basically like at the end of life or whenever you're gonna replace it, it will still have much more usable life left in them. What does that translate to? That translates to it will still hold more charge compared to a smaller cell. So a 4000 milliamp hour after 2 years versus a 6000 after 2 years, you will find that 6000 milliamp hour will have around 95% of its capacity, while 4000 would have degraded to around 70%. The smaller the cell, the quickly they wear out. So fundamentally I need something big. So I do not want to be in a position where like after 2 years I'm like I have to keep plugging my phone, and because I hand this puppy down, I do not want that like another person who's gonna get it, any of my family member, to deal with like, okay, that's all. It's basically a fancy landline. I don't want that to happen. So fundamentally big cells are a primary requirement. So that flat out kicks out many of the high-end quote-unquote phones. They inherently design in such a way that you have to throw it away. It's like 4000 milliamp hour cell that's inherently will not last. However, mid-range phones are kind of immune to that and they get bonkers battery. So I'm happy with that. You want big cell. Another aspect is I need external memory. The reason for that is if you technically want to decide what parts quote unquote waste on ghista, like grinds away, it's your memory. You're like, how the heck memory grinds away? It's a freaking solid state part. But like how the heck it stores memory is utilizing electron, and it has the ability to hold electron in a permanent state. That's what makes it on or off. It's not magnetic, it's like a physical electron gets into trap. Now that trap is like letting electron in when you want to write in, but like lets it off, quote unquote locks it there. I've already made a dedicated video about this, but the TLDR of is that there is a wall that allows electron when you want it to and locks it when you don't want it to go away. Awesome, it works, but here's the every time it has to do that on and off, every time it has to quote unquote read and write bytes from it, it is wearing that down. So that wall will go from like I can hold this electron, I got this, no problem, to after 1 year it's like, dude, some electrons are leaking. Now operating system manufacturers, basically system architecture, they know this happens, so they have a lot of error correction algorithm built into it, and this you will notice that your system is starting to becoming sluggish. Even though you have SSD, is still starting to behave sluggish, simply because those fault error rates are piling up too much. Over 5-6 years, it will be like, So fundamentally, you want to reduce the wear and tear on your main primary storage. How can you do that? External memory. And even though you cannot pack away like primary requirements like applications and things of that nature into your SSD, you can still successfully put your Netflix offline, your Amazon offline, your Disney Plus offline, basically almost all offline stuff. You can put that. I'm very sorry about the background noise. You can put all that basically offline media into your SD card. That will protect you against basically bit of wear and tear would be removed, and especially if you have photo albums, giant photo, if those things are put in your micro SD card rather than primary memory, it will make your memory last longer. Another, I need this, you may not need this. I need dual SIM, and dual SIM plus the SD card. This is very critical because not every phone has this luxury. They may say like 2 plus 1, you can have a 2 SIM or 1 SIM plus 1 SD card. I need all three, basically 2 SIM plus SD card. Again, it may depend on you whether you need it or not. And I need a lot of RAM because while Android is becoming better and better each year, its inherent way of solving problem is brute force. It's basically old adage applies here. It's like if you're not able to solve your problem with brute force, you're not applying enough of it. Military adage. So same reality applies here. How the heck Android achieved multitasking processing so early on? They had way too much RAM. It's like they were just going like, you can't optimize the application, no problem, just put more RAM. Like we went RAM like there is no tomorrow. It's like you can go upwards of, if I'm not mistaken, 12 GB RAM on modern Android phones. It's like bonkers. And this puppy, the phone that I'm looking for, that can go up to 8 GB, which is higher than my first computer. So reality is because Android is kind of relying on that, so each updates kind of slowly starts to creep your RAM uses up. So let's say you had only 6 GB, you will notice like in the early years it will be like for first few updates it will like, yeah, it's only consuming that 3 GB on like idling, and it will slowly start to reach 4, 5, and then the active RAM left you have will go down. What does that mean? That simply means if you have start to open up large big games or things of that nature, it has to clear up the memory. That will cause lag and all that jazz. So you want to start with big RAM because it's not like a laptop where you can open and put more. So I do need a lot of RAM. So even after last updates, which nowadays Samsung is making a commitment that they're gonna update their phone for 3 years, I want to make sure that my phone is basically usable in semi-usable state after third year's last final update. So a lot of RAM is kind of important. Now camera, this is the part where money is made right now, and that's what the differentiating factor there is, like between every similar basically Android manufacturer. How you gonna select? Well, if you try to select it, there's a very serious, unless you know exactly what you want, you will be lost. Now in those sort of scenario, if you are lost, I have a simple proposition for you. Basically, is the camera better than your current phone? Basically whatever you know right now, basically this camera, am I gonna be satisfied with this? Because you are satisfied, you have this. Now if it's gonna be better than this, you're gonna be happy. Just look for that. It's like, I have this, can my new camera replace this one? If answer is yes, enjoy. Do not go into like, okay, this camera has like this it has a 12 megapixel ultra wide, this has only 8 megapixel ultra wide. Don't do that. Is it better than your previous one? Happy, be enjoy. Otherwise you will keep going in a loop, or you end up spending a lot of money. So let's take a closer look at M31s. Now the puppy that I'm trying to buy is 8 GB, 128 GB. Now that 128 GB is also ideal point, simply because if you remember SSDs in computer market 5 years ago, they were like, if you check the write speed of 128 GB versus 256 GB were faster. Read speed was the same, but write speed was always faster, and that applies on basically any flash storage. So instead, if you have to choose and you can afford it, basically try to go for bigger one. That's aspect. 2 SIM SD card, my primary requirement. 6000 milliamp hour, the biggest battery I can get. I think there is only one model that goes higher than this, but 6000 more than good enough, because I have experienced that this puppy has more than enough juice that I can do basically 2 SIM cards active, 4G all the time, Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth 24/7, and this phone is like, I don't care. While running Netflix and all that, I do not do gaming on it, so be mindful. I am not a gamer. So I used to be game artist, but I'm not a gamer, so you get the point. That's why I'm so excited about that giant battery. Another aspect, it has side mounted fingerprint sensor. Now you may be like, shouldn't they have included at this kind of price range under screen fingerprint? Now if you deal with attention issues, where you want to like, hey, I want to remove clutter from my life and I want to focus exactly on where I want to focus, mobile phone would be a very big problem for you, because if it's unlocked through front screen, you have to keep it down like this on your table, and because of notification you will keep looking into it. So that's a very big problem. How can you solve it? Have fingerprint on the back. Now that this phone has that, but problem is if I keep it like this, I cannot unlock it. Now that's a problem. How do you solve that? Put it on side. So that means if I put it like this, if I'm like, it's nighttime, I'm like, dude, I do not need to wake up, I have put my phone on do not disturb, I'm just like, I'm gonna sleep. You never want your phone like this, you never want this, you always want like this. Okay, awesome. This right now I can unlock when I pick it up in the morning, but if I side, I can put it like this or like this. That's awesome. And it has better camera system than my previous one by leaps and bounds, so I don't even have to consider worry about camera system. It's just like, if I can live with this, I can be damn sure I can live with M31s. Now, what are the cons of this system? Now, Samsung, I do not know what Samsung's product managers are smoking, and I do not know how high they are, but they are way too high. So what does that mean? That simply means Samsung, instead of solving problem, they just create more problem. It's like, hey, people are having issue with this model, let's not release software patches, let's not try to fix it, let's just make 10,000 more models. I kid you not, in between price range of 10,000 rupees and 40 around 30,000 rupees, you will have at least 43 independent models. I'm not talking about colors, independent model. That's bonkers, that's stupid beyond stupid. So consequence, this chip SoC, now it was okay 1 year ago and they released it at really bad timing for me. It's like, I bought M30 and everybody was hating this phone. It was like, hey, it's not that good, you could buy a lot of other Chinese option which had better SoC. However, even at back then, the primary reason for me was OLED, and back then there was no competition, there was like no LCD. Like LCD cannot still match it, but like there was no option. Right now today, yeah, there are some options at the similar price range, but fundamentally there was no option. So I was happy with this, and I speaking from experience of 2.5 almost 2 years, I'm happy with it. So that time, because of the complaints people got from M30, they quickly, as in like less than 6 months, they created a new system, that Exynos 9611, and they released in M30s. Now that this SoC became like a basic bitch for the Samsung. It's like every phone from cheaper end, as in like Samsung M20 to even M10, some variants of M10 also has that, like M20 to M30 to M40, all of them have this. It's like, what the heck, like you can buy this SoC for a very cheap price or very high end price. You're like, good luck trying to figure out which phone has what. It's like, why? And it does not make sense, because this SoC was okay when it came out. It was like a bit behind the Samsung SoC that I have, like 7000 series, that was outdated. 9000, it was good back then, but right now it's like, does not hold up. So fundamentally that's a limiting factor. So, and because Samsung never spends time to actually fine tune their processors, even though this has the raw oomph needed, there is no polish in it. Outcome, people have very let's just say okay experience. It's not bad, like I'm using it, it's not bad, it's just like, really, you could have polished a bit more. So that's a limiting factor for this kind of high price. And it has useless 5 megapixel depth sensor. Why do you need depth sensor? Like, you don't need it. Fundamentally you don't. Just that's just a waste of space. And just to say quad camera, like even technically this says on the box it's a triple camera. I can't access those 3 cameras, I can only access 2 of them. So why the heck you are calling it triple camera? That would be like calling my TV's IR sensor is like, oh, TV has IR sensor. It's like, dude, it has only one use and I can't even tamper with that. So it's like, what's the point? Or having like something that you can't access, like really useless. And modern AI algorithms works on single camera, so there is no point. It's like inherently wasteful thing. It's like inherently they're just lolling it. It's like just to say like they have quad camera. That's truly painful waste of money. And consequence of, because Samsung's sky high product managers, it does not have 60 frames per second. Now 60 frames per second on a 4K, I can understand that this is a low end system, but like why the heck it's not there in 60 basically full HD? Because like you can buy Samsung M20 that has that, but you can't buy like M31s that has that, because I'm high. I don't know why I'm like that. That's really frustrating. It does not have 60 hertz on like many frame rates, and poor electronic image stabilization. Now this is really sad, because electronic image stabilization makes mobile phone videos go from useless to actually useful. And they have like they know that this is a desirable fact. They designed it, they built it, but they never bother to fine tune it or polish it or even release updates for it. It's like, it's there, it's better than nothing. It's just like, dude, really? It's like, really? So that's the fundamental aspect. And instead of this 5 megapixel camera, instead of improving, let's say they are like, hey, instead of putting 5 megapixel system, putting 8 megapixel would have costed too much. Okay, fair enough, I get it, fair enough, too much money. Put that money into NFC, and NFC is there in this camera but in selected region. Why? And one thing that I'm like, I will like, more than enough people will happily pay a lot for is like, hey, if your SoC is outdated, what if you make the phone hardened, basically waterproof it? Because right now, like, I have a simple philosophy whenever I buy watches. It's like, I don't have to think about it. That's my primary requirement. I should not think about it. Now mobile phones have gotten to a point where dropping it is not going to damage it, and I put a giant case, kickstand case, and a screen protector, so like, I don't have to worry about dropping this puppy. However, I still have to worry about water. Imagine waterproofing the phone, because that's the next big step. It's like reaching a point in our smartphone development where it's like, you don't have to think about smartphone. It's like, unless you do something really stupid, it's gonna be fine. So right now, this, I still have to worry about rains and all that jazz, but that's a thing that, kind of bothers me. It's like, at this kind of high price point of the M31s, that's a weird limitation. Now, in doing all this research, I realized of something very horrific that I was falling victim to, is price creep. Now, you have to understand this. In Indian rupees, I will specify that you can convert that into dollar. It's like, the early days, mid-range phone was 10,000 rupees. Okay, good. Then I started to make money and started to buy phone. The mid-range shifted to around 15,000. Right now, I'm looking at all the market reviews and all that. Phones that are 25,000 rupees, they are specifically called as mid-range. This is a price creep, and it happened in US also. It's like, hey, phone started like, this is a mid-range for around $200 to $300 to $400. Like, it's keep going up. This is what you call price creep. Now this has very serious consequences for human psychology. Now, because we are humans, we are not Vulcans, we have emotional tendencies. So what does that mean? That simply means, once I reach that 20,000 rupees mark, and that was like my hard sell. Like, if you watch my very old videos, when I was talking about mobile phone, that was my hard level. Like 15 to 20, that's my GG zone. I'm not gonna exceed that. Now I was so close to 21,000. Now what's the problem with that? It's a little bit more, and I will get 8 GB RAM. Okay, because I'm so close to that 20 plus market, now it's like, hey, what if I spend 25, I'll get better SoC? Or what if it's like, hey, dude, I already spent so much. What if I put a little bit more and I get a completely new, ball game? Instead of mid-range, I get a high-end one. You see, like, we start to slip. And that, I can guarantee you, the moment you start to buy expensive phone, the next year will be even more expensive. Because this is human psychology's fault, that slippery slope. So this slippery slope was something that I was like thinking about. Like, and that's why I decided to make this video. It's like, that slope is very steep. You will not even notice it. Like, you will go from, hey, mobile phone was like a minor expenditure, to like, dude, why the heck my bank account no longer has money? Because you are wasting it in your mobile phone. You're gonna throw it away in 2 years no matter what, and there is no reason for it to be expensive. Because think of it this way, this will allow you to understand it. Whatever the price of your mobile phone, divide it by 24 months. That is how much you are spending on that system. And I'm not even talking about SIM charges and things of that nature. So that is very scary for me, and that was like, whoa, I'm slipping. So you have to be very mindful of that. And you may think this thing like, hey, it will last longer. No, it will not. Like, the only reasons I don't second-hand sell these phones and all that, A, it will not make too much money, B, I can hand it down. And that's why, like, generally I hand it out to elderly people. So in those sort of scenarios, they do not need like latest and greatest 144 hertz display. They're happy. Dude, it's a phone, they did not have to pay for it, they're happy with it. It's like, dude, it has good battery life, I am sold. If it does not have a cracked screen, I am sold. So I have a different kind of scenario, but you will have completely different. So in those sort of scenario, most likely you're gonna change it in 2 years. I can guarantee that. That's like world average at this point in time. And people will think, hey, what if I have bit higher end phone? It will save time. It will lag a little less, so it will save time. Will it really save that much time? Like, think about it. Like, I divide the cost. Like, let's say 5,000 rupees, the gap between a cheap phone, expensive phone that you are vying to buy, and that 5,000 will be divided by 24. Now that means per month you have to make that much more money. Now compare that much more money versus, are you really gonna save that much time? Short answer would be no. Heck, you will end up wasting more time. Specifically, if your phone is really good, it really will become addictive. You will not be like Instagram. You like, if everything is butter smooth, you don't even notice. Like, let's say your average Instagram addiction is around 30 minutes per day. It will go to 35 minutes per day. Not only you spended more money, you are now much more worse off than you would have been. So you have to be very mindful. The slope is ludicrously steep. And it was like, I always used to think that I'm good with money, but I was like, whoa, a man was about to slip. So fundamentally, you have to be mindful of this. This is very, because if you buy an expensive phone, you're not saving money, you are working harder for it. And that's why now I finally realized the saying, every penny saved is a penny earned. Because yeah, I bought a more expensive, basic device. Yeah, now you have to pay for it. You would have been much better off if you had a lower end. That's why, like, Really important. Like many times people say, nah, we don't have too much money. No, we are leaking money. It's like we don't think about how much Netflix subscription is. It's just like, oh, one subscription is there, another subscription is there, another this is there, another that is there, and my mobile phone that I'm replacing every 2 years. Like, once you pile up all those things, then you're like, whoa. So that is the price creep aspect, and I would urge you to be very mindful. It's like it will be so tempting, and mobile manufacturers do want to make it that way, simply because low-end mobile phones are not that profitable for them. It's like, think of it this way: a phone that is like, let's say, 10,000 rupees would have costed them 8,000 to make. A phone that is 50,000 would have costed them 8,000 plus some more. So for example, plus some more would be like 10,000, 15,000, not too much more than that. And that's the whole point. So selling that has enough margin that if they sell only a few pieces of that, they're like, we GG. So, but it's really bad for you. So fundamentally, be mindful of price creep, and it will happen to you slowly over time. It's like, hey, you bought 15,000 rupees phone, just 20,000, 25, 30, 35, and you're like, why the heck I don't have savings account? Like, as in like money in your savings account. So this was my presentation about Samsung M31s. I hope you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.